Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Randy. Thanks for joining me on the channel today. I hope you're all doing well. So, as you know, I did a video a few weeks ago that talked about what to do with your in-bloom orchid once you got it home. It was around Mother's Day, so I figured a lot of people were getting plants. And so they were in bloom, and we talked about some care tips to keep your orchid healthy and happy. And so hopefully those worked for you. But I'm sure there are some now that are starting to drop their blooms, and you want to know what to do with your plant or how to care for it after the bloom and get it ready for bloom next year or the next bloom. So that's what we're going to do on this video. It's going to be two parts. And the first part, I am going to talk to you about what your options with your spike, what you can do with that. And in the second one, we're going to go through a full repotting of your orchid. So stick around. All right, so let's get right to it. Remember, this is part one. And in part one, we're going to talk about what to do with the stem once your blooms fall. And in part two, we're going to do a full repotting. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. So you got your plant, you got it home, you watched the other video, you kept it healthy and everything, and now the blooms are falling. And like I said they would, and you're not scared this time because you don't think you killed it. You know that's natural. That's a natural part of the process. So what we're going to do now is talk about what your options are with the plant from here on out. So first and foremost, your stem or the spike. This is what's called the spike. I'm sorry. And so your spike has died already, they've fallen, and it probably doesn't look like this yet, but this is the one we're going to use for the potting demo. So let's see here. Yours probably looks like this. So let's just say yours look like this. It's still green, and it has, but the flowers are off. Now I feel like you have three choices here. First and foremost is to do nothing. That is literally to do nothing. And the reason I say that is because if you can see on this one, there is a little bud here. And I got a feeling this might pop one more bud and put out another plant before this is done, or another flower before this is done. So I'm just going to leave it alone. Option one, leave it alone to see if it pops out another little bud. I'll keep this here until it decides to die off on its own, or I just decide that that is not a popping bud and I'll just want to cut it back. So option one, leave it alone. Option two is to cut it back to, so you're going to see like nodes, what we call nodes. And there's nodes, and there's usually 1, 2, 3, 4 nodes before you get to a flowering. Now this is a flowering node here. That's a flowering node right there. And you can see that there was a flower that came out of that. And below that are these little nodes that have a little sheath over the top of them. So you can cut it back to right above the last flowering node or right below the last flowering node. And there's a possibility that will actually kick out a spike from that first node. So you can get a spike here, or you may even get a kiki, which is another plant that will grow from here. So one, leave it alone. Two, cut it down to right below or right above the last flower node, the lowest flower node, and hope that it kicks out another spike. And so as you can see, this one did. This one kicked out another spike. So that's your second option if you want to try to get it to bloom again on the same spike. Now, option three is even if it's green and you want to not worry about another bloom, you just want to go on and have your plant start to grow, because a lot of times they don't bloom and grow at the same time. One way you'll know it's done blooming is you'll start to see a flower or another leaf come out. Notice, see here, this one started to die off and a leaf started to come out. And I would bet you if I examine this enough, yep, there you go. There is a root coming out there. So, and a root coming out on this side. So when they stop blooming, they'll start to grow again. I personally, a lot of times, don't like to stress my plants out by reblooming and reblooming and reblooming. So I'll go on and cut mine back. Now, on my first video, or the video you probably found me on, I cut it all the way back down. So as you can see, and this has been a source of contention, some people will cut theirs right above this node, the first node, or really this is the first node on here. They'll cut it here. I usually would cut mine all the way off, because if you can see, it dies all the way off. It's literally, if it's going to die, it'll usually die all the way off. Now, some people will cut theirs here, which I have no problem with, because they feel like if it dies back and it has any kind of bacteria or fungal, that this node will stop it. So I have no problem with people that want to cut theirs here. So that is what you want. Those are your options for your spike. So remember, 1, leave it alone. 2, cut it down to right below the first flower. Or 3, we're going to cut it all the way off down to the bottom. And then it will start to kick out its leaves, start to grow some roots, and it'll start to get healthy again for your next bloom. So that's where I'm going to stop this video so it doesn't get too long. Make sure you come back for episode 2 or part 2, where we actually go through a whole repotting of your plant. Okay, so again, as always, thanks for joining me here on the channel. Be safe. More importantly, be kind. Never give up on them. And until next time, or part 2, peace.